life for the very first time through a different lens. Yesterday, I didn't understand. Driving 35 with the rocket inside, didn't know what I had. Well, I've been waiting all night. My life's been waiting on me. So I'm gonna run. No, I'm gonna fly. I'm gonna know what it means to live and not just be alive. The world's gonna hear, 'cause I'm gonna shout. And I'll be dancing when circumstances drown the music out. Say I won't.
Hello everyone, Seth Andre Robinson here, welcoming you to another edition of Purpose Me, the interviews. I'm here with Miss Julie Robinson, also my sister. She's a teacher in the Gloucester County District Schools, an elementary school teacher. So Julie, how long have you been in your profession as a teacher?
Going into September, it will be my 24th year.
24th year of teaching,
Yeah.
Oh wow. And you a teacher for the gifted, should we say, education?
Special education teacher, so
Yeah.
students who are struggling learners, those who are dealing with dyslexia and other learning disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So last year was very interesting because the schools had to close down due to the pandemic. When the schools were closed down and you was forced to teach online, what were some of the ways that you came up, some of the creative ways that you came up with to keep students engaged and even encouraged? Because a lot of times, a lot of them was feeling some sort of way with the schools being closed.
A lot of it was thinking outside the box. I'm going to be honest. The district would give you a plan of action, but oftentimes that plan of action was not ideal for the students that I was teaching.
Mm-hmm.
When you're teaching struggling learners, they're not going to fit the mold of the average learner.
Yeah.
And honestly, even the average learner was struggling during this pandemic. So thinking outside the box would be finding new ways, such as the district recommended one online teaching method, but I had to investigate other online teaching methods. So
Okay.
I ended up using Nearpod, which, as far as I know, I was the only teacher in the building that was using Nearpod,
Okay.
which was interactive learning.
Okay.
That was very interactive for my students, very engaging for them. They loved the Nearpods, so I guess shout out for Nearpod because the kids were loving every minute of it, and it was live interactive. So they had to log on and they had to remain with you throughout the whole lesson. The slides were teacher paced, so that means I was controlling what they were seeing from their end at home.
Okay.
So if I
Okay.
progressed to the next slide, their computer would automatically progress to the next slide.
Okay.
So it was really nice that way. Another thing we did was teacher DoorDash, and that was dropping off gifts and prizes for online games to student homes.
Okay.
Got to know addresses really well, and it was something that became a little more challenging during the winter and colder months. But the kids loved it, and I loved pulling up to their homes and seeing the smiles on their faces
Oh,
when you
that's
got out of the
great.
car and dropped off the teacher DoorDash. On Fridays, we had a big weekly review, and we did teacher DoorDash lunches. So then we dropped off like a McDonald's or Chick-fil-A lunch,
Wow.
and they really, again, loved the kind of like the grand prize for the week.
Okay. Because I guess as a teacher, you came to realize that students going to school is more than just about learning.
Yes.
It's also about interacting with their classmates, interacting with their teachers. So when they had that time period when they was out of school, it was really, spiritually hurtful for them. And how did you deal with that when they, would, I guess sometimes would even tell you how much they missed you or long to be back in school? How did you deal with that?
I felt like this year the social emotional learning piece became even more crucial and critical. I think many teachers started realizing that children weren't just learners. They look at the whole child. We had children who were, whether it be even kids who weren't getting lunch regularly because school lunches were no longer being provided. Students who we had to realize were living in situations that required us to go out of our way to check and even do sometimes wellness checks to make sure these kids were being supervised properly, that they were in a safe environment, and not in a way that was often confrontative to parents, but just checking up on kids, asking them how they're doing, taking an interest in hobbies and things that they were interested in. A lot of students were limited from sports, so just taking an interest in the things that they love. I found myself engaged in Roblox with students and playing Among Us with kids online because that was something they were interested in. So they dragged Miss Robinson into Roblox games often online.
Okay. So it became more than just, okay, let me get online, teach my students, and get off. It became much bigger than that.
It was definitely much bigger. It was even more difficult to log off online with students after classes were done. There were kids who just wanted to stay on and talk to you. They were that lonely and just wanting to socialize with you. So I found myself sometimes staying on for 30 minutes to 45 minutes after a class ended because kids just did not want to get off. They wanted to stay on and talk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, you're an amazing teacher, just thinking outside of the box, and actually something, you received a special award in the 2018-2019 year. And what was that award that you received?
It was my school's Teacher of the Year award. It was definitely an honor. I had been nominated in previous years, and I guess you could say one of the finalists in previous years, but it was really nice to, receive that award. Not something that's necessary to validate you as a teacher, because I feel like the students are enough validation as it is. Just to be able to see them, and ironically ran into quite a few of my students even over the year who are now adults.
Oh, wow.
Running into them at various restaurants and venues, and that's just validation right there. Just having kids say, I remember you. And it was one of my best years, so
okay.
Warms your heart.
Okay. So you have inspired your students, I'm sure, and you said they come up to you and thank you and tell you and say, remember when, and so forth and so on. How has the students inspired you?
Oh, that is definitely a question for this year. I am thoroughly inspired by my students this year. First of all, the spirit of resiliency that I've seen in kids this year, that I've seen before, but not to this level. The level where kids will go out of their way to do the things that are really difficult. Because this year, staying in contact with teachers was extremely difficult. Getting work done was extremely difficult, but to have kids reach out to you online and ask, what can I do to get a better grade? On Nearpod, I would assign special holiday projects for them to get extra points. That's another way for them to win. They would win like Amazon gift cards and different things like that for doing an extra credit Nearpod on different holidays. We did immigration and Cinco de Mayo and things like that. And just having kids say, oh, you forgot to post one for Memorial Day. Yeah. Are you going to post that one? So
oh, wow.
I was inspired. We got to another way, and I have to share this. We had a student who was going to Mexico, and he did not want to miss class, so he logged on from the airport as we're in class on Zoom, and he's guiding us through his whole trip as he's waiting for the airport or his plane. He's boarding, he's on the plane, he's showing us takeoff. It was like our classroom field trip. And he's like, I have to go now because, we're going into airplane mode. And we're like, oh, okay, we'll have fun in Mexico. And then he logs back on that afternoon to say that he's arrived in Mexico and he's sitting on a beach still in class.
So he's went to a family trip in Mexico and he's online the entire time.
He refused to miss class. And that to me
That's amazing.
Spoke volumes and how dedicated. And this was an ELL child who, it was just impressive that he would not miss class. Even the next day, he got back on from a beach in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
Still on Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience to see the level these students would go to.
What have you personally learned? What is the one lesson you personally learned during the pandemic with everything?
I have learned that, honestly, kindness and compassion and the human experience to me goes so much farther than just 4 walls of school. the kids the way they encouraged each other online, to get on Google Classroom and say good morning, everyone. I hope you all have a good day. And these are not from teachers; these are from students saying it to their classmates. And I hope you guys have a good day. And don't get upset. This is going to be over soon. Like these are messages that kids, 9-year-olds, were sending other children.
Oh wow!
To encourage them. And that to me was just speaking volumes about the human spirit this year. Like I've seen kids do phenomenal things and take leadership roles in just human kindness and compassion. So I learned a lot this year from my students.
Wow. So if you had to look at the camera and give a word of encouragement to a particular person or a group of people, who would it be, first of all?
It would be two groups. Honestly, I'm going to say teachers.
Okay.
Because I felt like there were a lot of teachers this year who were encouraged, but there were also quite a few that were discouraged. And I don't even know if it was school related or student related. There was a lot of mandates placed on teachers.
So you said
to pull off things that I felt became quite overwhelming. And I'm going to be honest, it was an overwhelming year when you were told to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah.
It really was.
So the one group is teachers, and that second group is?
I'm going to say the special education students I taught this year. Yeah.
So if you had give a word of encouragement to them, look to the camera and give a word of encouragement to the teachers and the special education students, what would you say to them?
To the special education students, you were leaders this year. You overcame very great difficulties. Students who had dyslexia this year and still struggle to learn to read. I'm so proud of you. And you really showed us that if you can overcome those difficulties, we can overcome anything. That we really can't hide behind excuses because you made no excuses. And so that really encouraged us to not really make excuses for ourselves, even through this pandemic, to step it up. And when the bar is raised, we have to raise the bar for ourselves. We have to raise ourselves to that bar and perform even more. To teachers this year, who often, and I heard many complaints from teachers this year, we were kind of like our own support group. And for the teachers this year, I'm going to say, beyond this pandemic, don't stop being able to collaborate with each other. I feel like that was our one way of making it through this year. Not even all the mandates and all the support. It was being able to feel that we're not alone. And we're not going through it alone. And I think ultimately that helped all of us get through, is believing that we're not alone in this situation.
That's a good word. It's a good word. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. This is my sister and amazing teacher, Julie Robinson. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for watching this edition of Purpose Made, the YouTube series. Oh, hey everybody. Thank you so much for watching the Purpose Me interviews. If you or someone you know has an amazing story to tell and you would like to share it with us, feel free to contact me at readysetpurpose@gmail.com. Again, the email is readysetpurpose@gmail.com. Thank you so much for watching these interviews, and God bless.